Have you ever been underestimated by your own family? My sister tried to crush me in front of everyone, and my parents stayed silent. But what she didn't know, I had a secret that would change everything. This is the story of how the quiet sister finally took control, and revenge became inevitable. The room was so quiet you could hear Grandma's old clock ticking on the mantel. 15 relatives crammed into her living room, the air thick with lavender potpourri. And judgment. I sat by the window, the one nobody else wanted. 32 years old, quiet, unnoticed. Victoria, my older sister, stood in her tailored $3,000 suit and announced she was tripling my rent. $6,800, effective next month. Some relatives smirked. Others shifted uncomfortably. I stayed calm. I knew something she didn't. Growing up as Victoria's younger sister meant living in her shadow. She was golden, perfect, brilliant. A Harvard Law summa cum laude making partner at 35. I, the ordinary one. State school grad, property management degree, assistant manager at a mid-sized firm. Every family gathering followed the same cruel script. Aunt Patricia, did you hear Victoria just closed a $10 million merger? Someone gushed. And then came the sympathetic tilt toward me. Madison, you're still at that property thing? Yes, I was. I loved it. I walked through buildings, studied market values, and saw potential where others saw problems. Fascination wasn't currency in my family. To them, especially Victoria, I was underachieving, dependent, unworthy. For 5 years, I rented a 2-bedroom on Riverside Drive, one of Grandma's old buildings. Victoria managed it pro bono, always reminding us of her sacrifice. She set my rent at $2,200, calling it a family discount. Market rate, $2,400. Not much of a discount, but she made sure I never forgot her generosity. I paid every month quietly. Dishwasher broke? Took her 3 months to fix it. Heating failed in winter? I endured it. I never complained. That was my role. The little sister grateful for scraps. 3 years before that fateful day, something changed. Something Victoria never knew. When Grandma was alive, I helped her organize her finances every Sunday. One evening, she pressed a business card into my hand. Your sister means well, she whispered, but she doesn't see everything. Sometimes the quiet ones are the smartest. Remember that when the time comes. I didn't understand then. Months later, after her passing, her personal lawyer called. Grandma had left me a private inheritance outside the main estate, enough for a strategic investment, enough to change everything. Fast forward to that Tuesday in Grandma's living room. Victoria clicked through color-printed graphs. Your current rent is $2,200, she announced, far below market. Comparable units are going for at least $6,800. I've subsidized your lifestyle for 5 years, $240,000 out of my pocket. Relatives gasped. Victoria smiled, the kind of smile that demanded applause. I don't want praise, I said calmly. I just want fairness. Effective next month, your rent will be $6,800. The silence was deafening. Everyone looked at me, expecting defeat. No one defended me. Not after 5 years of paying on time. Not after helping Grandma with her books. Victoria extended the new lease across the table. Sign it today, she said. I looked at the paper, then at my phone. A text I sent 20 minutes earlier. On my way, documents ready. Victoria mistook my calm for surrender. Here's what Madison's apartment should cost. $7,200, $7,500, $8,100. I'm giving her a discount of $6,800. My phone buzzed, 15 minutes out. The doorbell rang. Perfect timing. A man in a dark suit stepped in, leather briefcase in hand. Good evening, I'm Mr. Carver, representing Riverside Holdings, LLC. I have documents for the tenants of this building. Victoria frowned. Tenants? I managed this property. Not anymore, he said. Riverside Holdings purchased this building 3 years ago. Ms. Madison Irving is the sole owner. The room froze. Even the clock seemed to pause. Victoria's composure crumbled. You tried to triple my rent in a building that doesn't belong to you, I said quietly. You tried to humiliate me, publicly. But tonight you embarrassed yourself. Relatives gasped, whispers spreading. Victoria's mouth opened and closed. This isn't fair. You tricked me. No, I said. I just stopped letting you trick me. Her face went pale. For the first time, I wasn't the overlooked sister. I held the deed. I was in control. Victoria slumped into her chair, defeated. I didn't need applause. The silence of those who once laughed at her arrogance was enough. I stepped into the cool night air, feeling the weight of 15 years of belittlement lift from my shoulders. The following days were surreal. Victoria had vanished from my life, not physically, but psychologically. She haunted hallways, whispered behind doors, and tried desperately to reclaim the control she once held. But every move she made, every scheme she attempted, I anticipated. I had studied her patterns for years. Her arrogance, her impatience, her need for approval. It was all predictable. And predictable meant controllable. It began with subtle reminders of her downfall. Staff would accidentally misplace her paperwork. Tenants who once deferred to her now subtly contradicted her opinions. Nothing dangerous, nothing illegal, just irritation, embarrassment, small acts of disruption that slowly gnawed at her confidence. Victoria's paranoia grew. She double-checked every detail, questioned every employee, replayed every interaction in her head. Every attempt to assert authority was met with resistance she hadn't foreseen. Even the tiniest challenge made her doubt herself. I escalated carefully. Notes appeared where she would see them. Not everything is yours to command. Control is earned, not inherited. Patience always wins. They were subtle, cryptic, effective. She would find them in her study, the kitchen, even inside books she thought were private. She would reread them, question them, search for hidden meanings. Each note reinforced the reality. She was no longer in control. Family gatherings became my theater. Casual, estate updates allowed me to orchestrate Victoria's humiliation without touching a finger. A misstatement here, an overlooked detail there, and I would let relatives observe. Aunt Patricia frowned. Uncle Ted's eyebrows lifted. Cousins whispered. Victoria realized, slowly and painfully, that her influence was evaporating. One evening, she confronted me in the grand hall, her voice sharp, trembling with frustration. Emily, this ends tonight. You can't keep undermining me. I smiled, calm, deliberate. Victoria, this isn't about undermining. This is about correcting a lifetime of mistakes, yours, and those that allowed you to control through fear instead of merit. Her face flushed. Rage mingled with panic. You think you're clever. I've been clever enough to survive, I said, and now to thrive. I introduced more deliberate psychological chaos. A water leak in her office, minor, easily fixed, but timed when she was preparing for a presentation. Misplaced legal documents forced her to delay important communications. Staff subtly questioned her decisions in public meetings. Each disruption was calculated, small, and precise. Victoria's mental state deteriorated quickly. She lashed out, yelled at staff, argued with tenants, and tried to reclaim her power, but it slipped further from her grasp. Every attempt backfired. Then came the first real test, a family dinner where I invited everyone under the guise of estate planning discussions. Victoria tried to dominate the conversation. She laid out plans, financial projections, and directives. Every sentence was met with calm contradiction or evidence of her past negligence. Her face tightened with every correction. You can't do this, she stammered. Her voice faltered. Yes, Victoria, I said, soft but firm. I can, and I will. Aunt Patricia whispered, Oh my God, while Uncle Ted muttered something about karma. Cousin Derek, who had always smirked at her antics, stayed quiet. The psychological pressure was suffocating her. Victoria tried to regain authority through fear. She warned tenants, criticized staff, and even attempted to bribe and influence. But every move was anticipated. Every action I allowed to unfold further exposed her incompetence. Her words fell flat. Her threats became almost comical. One morning, she confronted me directly. You've ruined everything. This isn't just my house. It's our family legacy. I leaned back, smiling faintly. No, Victoria. You only thought you controlled it. Legacy isn't about appearances or shouting louder than others. It's about patience, strategy, and understanding people. And you never did. She flinched. Her mouth opened, then closed. I had dismantled her authority without lifting a finger. Next, I subtly manipulated her social circle. Friends who had once praised her began to question her judgment. Tenants told stories of improvements she had ignored. Staff recalled moments when she had been negligent. It wasn't revenge through destruction. It was exposure. The world was quietly turning against her, and she could do nothing. Victoria's obsession with control became her undoing. She started losing focus, making careless mistakes, and alienating everyone who had ever supported her. I allowed each blunder to surface in public spaces, at meetings, in casual conversations. Every revelation was a calculated strike. The most satisfying moment came when she realized she could no longer influence the building legally or socially. Every lease, every tenant, every transaction flowed through me. She attempted to assert authority but discovered time after time that her power was gone. Her frustration was palpable. She began making desperate calls, pleading with relatives, trying to manipulate staff, but no one listened. The very people who once deferred to her now recognized me as the authority. By the end of the second month, Victoria had been thoroughly dismantled psychologically. She attempted reconciliation, sending emails, leaving voicemails, and offering apologies. I responded minimally, maintaining calm dominance. Finally, she appeared at the mansion's front steps one evening. Pale, trembling eyes searching for the sister she once controlled. She whispered, "You've changed." "No, Victoria," I replied steadily. "I haven't changed. I've just stopped letting you control the story." Victoria's unraveling had become the family's unspoken spectacle. She was the storm everyone whispered about, and I was the calm eye in its center. Every action she took to reclaim authority crumbled before it even left her lips. I had begun to engineer more direct consequences, small physical sabotage carefully masked as an OCO incident, a conference room light that flickered during her meetings, a printer that refused to function when she needed contracts printed. Nothing dangerous, nothing illegal, just minor frustrations that shattered her composure. Every disruption magnified her sense of helplessness. One evening, she confronted me in the lobby, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. "Emily, this has gone too far," she snapped. Her face was pale, the mask of superiority slipping. I smiled, calm, controlled. "Victoria, it has only gone as far as you allowed it to. You've humiliated me in front of everyone. The family, the tenants, the staff. This isn't fair." "Fairness?" I asked, tilting my head. "You've spent years building a fortress of fear. I've only dismantled it, brick by brick, with patience, strategy, and foresight. That's all." Victoria's rage became predictable. She tried yelling, threatening, and manipulating tenants, but every effort exposed her incompetence. Tenants questioned her decisions. Staff subtly contradicted her. Each small act of rebellion against her authority reinforced my dominance. It was the perfect storm. I let her implode under her own arrogance. The psychological torment escalated. I began leaving cryptic messages where she would find them. Control is an illusion. Influence is earned. You underestimate the quiet ones at your own peril. Every empire built on fear is destined to fall. Each note was carefully timed. Each delivered another layer of tension. Victoria obsessed over them, rereading them, questioning their meaning, searching for hidden threats. Every glance at a note deepened her paranoia. Family dinners became arenas of subtle humiliation. Victoria would attempt to dominate conversations, only for me to insert small truths that revealed her failures. A forgotten tenant complaint here, a mismanaged repair there. Witnesses murmured in disbelief. She stammered, floundered, and lost credibility with each passing minute. Her confidence crumbled. Every demand was met with polite contradiction, every boast exposed as empty. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't confront her directly. I just allowed the truth to surface. Victoria tried to reclaim power through manipulation. She whispered to tenants, pressured staff, and even tried bribing to influence. But every attempt failed. I anticipated each move. Every single action backfired. Her social and professional networks turned quietly against her. The tenants began confiding in me instead of her. Staff began following my instructions rather than hers. The small victories mounted. Her empire of control was collapsing. Then came the first physical escalation. Victoria, desperate, tried to interfere with the building's water supply, attempting to disrupt a renovation project I had meticulously organized. I had anticipated her interference. All systems were rerouted. Her sabotage failed without her knowledge. She thought she had power. She had none. I watched from the office window, invisible, as her frustration boiled over. She screamed into her phone, threatening contractors, tenants, and even family members. Her temper made her reckless. Her actions now drew attention to herself, exactly as I intended. I allowed her to experience a public reckoning at the next family meeting. Every error she had made was presented subtly. Every failed attempt at control magnified her failures. Staff spoke respectfully but factually about past mismanagement. Tenants expressed gratitude for my improvements. Each revelation was a silent blow. Victoria's face went pale. Her voice faltered. This isn't possible. Yes, Victoria, I said softly. It is possible. It always was. You just refused to see it. Whispers erupted. Cousins exchanged glances. Aunts gasped. Uncle Ted muttered something about karma. Every eye in the room silently acknowledged the shift. I was in charge now. She had lost everything but her fury. The final psychological blow was deliberate. I invited Victoria to a private walkthrough of the building, a symbolic gesture of reconciliation. I knew it would shatter her. Every hallway was upgraded, every apartment improved. Tenants smiled, waved, and praised the changes she had ignored. Every act was a reminder of her incompetence. She whispered, voice trembling. You've changed everything. I haven't changed, Victoria, I replied, calm. I've only stopped letting you control the story. Her expression twisted, disbelief and fury mixed. She opened her mouth to argue. Nothing came out. For the first time, she realized she had no power here. The night ended with her standing alone in the lobby, shoulders slumped, voice barely audible. She muttered, I can't believe this. I smiled faintly, stepping out into the cool night air. For the first time, the weight of years of humiliation, subtle manipulation, and psychological warfare felt complete. Victoria had been dismantled. Her arrogance, her control, her superiority reduced to panic, confusion, and despair. And all it had taken was patience, strategy, and the knowledge that the quiet ones are always watching. Victoria was unraveling. Her arrogance had crumbled, her authority shattered. But the final act of this story, the ultimate reckoning, had yet to unfold. I watched her from the shadows of the lobby as she fumed, her attempts to regain composure failing miserably. She thought she could salvage control with one last maneuver. I knew it would fail spectacularly. I orchestrated the final confrontation with precision, a meeting with tenants, staff, and the family, under the pretense of finalizing building improvements. Victoria arrived early, rehearsing speeches she would never deliver. I greeted her calmly. Victoria, I said softly, thank you for joining. Tonight, we close this chapter. Her eyes narrowed. What are you doing? Showing the building, I replied, voice steady. All of it. Every tenant, every renovation, every detail you ignored. Tonight, you see what true management looks like. We walked through the halls. Every apartment gleamed. Tenants praised upgrades she had overlooked for years. Staff shared stories of her failure in contrast to my improvements. The tension in Victoria's posture was palpable. Shoulders tight, hands clenched, eyes darting. You've changed everything, she muttered. Yes, Victoria, I said, calm and deliberate. I've changed nothing but the story. Her voice trembled. You've taken everything from me. I stopped, looked her in the eye. I didn't take anything from you. You never owned it. I just took what was always meant to be mine. I watched as she crumbled under the weight of psychological defeat. No shouts, no anger, just silent acknowledgement of reality. Family members whispered, witnesses shifted, and Victoria realized she had no allies. The very people who once deferred to her now looked at me with respect, admiration, and awe. Then came the final strategic blow. I handed Victoria a folder, thick with documents, contracts, and leases. Everything you tried to control, I said. Everything you tried to manipulate is now under my authority. You have no more power here." Her hands shook as she touched the papers. She tried to speak. No words came out. She was stripped of pretense, stripped of superiority, left only with the truth. Victoria attempted one last desperate gambit. "You can't do this legally," she hissed. I smiled faintly. "I already have." I held up the deed, every signature perfectly in place. Riverside Holdings, LLC. Every apartment, every tenant, every lease, mine. Her face went pale. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Not anger, not fury, but raw, unfiltered fear. The family watched, silent. Victoria's allies were gone. Every smirk, every whispered word that once supported her superiority now worked against her. The building, her domain, was mine. Her influence evaporated. I didn't gloat. I didn't raise my voice. I let the silence of victory speak for itself. Victoria collapsed into a chair, shoulders slumping. The mask of arrogance was gone. I can't believe this," she whispered, broken. "You will," I said calmly. "Because this is reality. For years, you believed fear and superiority would control me, but it never did. Patience, strategy, and observation were always stronger." Her gaze dropped. She was defeated. Not physically, not violently, but psychologically, emotionally, socially. She had lost everything she believed defined her. Over the next few days, the fallout was complete. Victoria avoided me, her attempts at reconciliation ignored. Staff and tenants aligned with me, respecting the new management. Relatives whispered about the quiet sister who had always been underestimated and had now claimed total authority. The final satisfaction came quietly. One evening, I walked past the building at sunset. Victoria stood on the sidewalk, watching. She said nothing. Her silence was acknowledgement enough. I didn't need applause. I didn't need validation. The building, the tenants, the staff, they all knew the truth. And that was enough. In the weeks that followed, I improved every aspect of the property. Renovations, tenant relations, and small community events. I wasn't motivated by revenge anymore. It was about proving competence, resilience, and owning my life. Victoria's downfall became a lesson. Silent, powerful, and absolute. She had underestimated the quiet sister, the one who observed, planned, and executed with precision. I had survived, thrived, and finally stood taller than she ever could. She opened her mouth to argue, but nothing came out. Her era was over. Revenge hadn't been my plan. Survival had. But sometimes, survival becomes its own form of justice. If you loved this story, hit the like button, share it with someone who's ever been underestimated, and subscribe to VowsBurn for more shocking revenge stories, family drama, and Reddit tales. Comment below. Have you ever faced betrayal from someone you trusted? I'd love to hear your story.